I think you answered the wrong question. I don't think his mic's working.
Chairman Peterson, can you hear us?
Yeah.
For some reason, we're not able to hear you now.
Start it and then so we can do it. Our life will begin.
We'll give him a moment. We are not able to hear you now. I wonder if it's the headphones that you plugged in. We're not able to hear you now. He can't hear us.
Help me help you.
He was loud and clear a few minutes ago. I think it is those Bluetooth headphones.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh,
There you go.
Jan.
Okay. We'll have to do it that way. All right. Are we ready to go live?
Yes, we are.
Okie doke. Thank you. Well, good morning. Today is Tuesday, July 20th, 2021, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. Due to issues arising from COVID-19, the board is using a teleconferencing format for today's meeting. We are all participating via the World Wide Web. If you'd like to make a public comment today, please make sure you are identified by name in the WebEx system. For those interested in commenting during unscheduled appearances, please use the raise your hand feature and wait to be recognized. Each speaker will be allowed up to 2 minutes for public comment. Each vote today will be a verbal or voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. After we have had a motion and a second regarding each item that we are taking up today, we will be doing a roll call vote by district. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here.
Okay, we have 5 present. So at this time, we'll move forward to the next item, which is the invocation. And I understand we have Pastor Sylvia Gaston from the Koinonia Church.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I want to start off with a verse, and then I have been praying for each of you individually this morning. So forgive the informality when I refer to you by your first name only. Let us bow our heads in prayer as I read this verse. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. And Father, we thank you for these 5 men who represent our county. Lord, I pray this verse over them. Lord, I know many of them have that in their hearts. They serve from a position of humility with the interests of others before their own. They love this community, God, and I pray that you will bless them with wisdom, with health, with joy in doing the job. Lord, I pray for the individual families. And I pray favor, Father, for each of them, for Craig and for Joe and for Richard and for Doug and for Richard. Father, I pray that you will bless them with much wisdom and compassion, with much zeal for and love for the job and the task that they have been elected into. Lord, I also pray for the other county officials and department heads, those who are in chambers and those who are not, Lord. I pray that you will continue to give them wisdom and a passion for their job. I pray that they will always put others first, Father. I pray that you will bless them for their efforts. And when their head lays down on their pillows at night, that you would give them good rest, that they would come to know you and rely upon you, Father, for all of their decisions, that they would draw closer to you day by day, year by year, Lord, in the leading not only of their families and themselves, but also for the people of this beautiful county of Kings. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very, very much for that. That was very nice this morning. Supervisor Neves, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we honor America by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
with liberty.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Just as a point of order, today we do have a public hearing at 10 a.m. So wherever we're at in our agenda, we will stop at that time and take up the public hearing that is scheduled at 10 o'clock. So with that, we'll move to item 2, which is unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or other items of interest to the public that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 2 minutes are allowed for each item. Do we have any public?
I do have Lupe Villa with his hand raised, but I have District Attorney Keith Fagundes at the podium, so I'll let him go first.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Keith Fagundes, District Attorney's Office. I wanted to update the board and the public on our current status of jury trials right now. And this week, we're able to get up to 3 jury trials out. For the last year due to COVID, we've only been doing approximately 1 trial a week. We were able to do some court trials. In this last year, we took the most serious crimes. We processed more than 5 murder cases out of the queue. This last week, we've conducted 2 murder trials, and sexual assaults also took the lead. Last week, the Guzman trial rendered a guilty in the first-degree verdict for a case that happened 1 year. So that's pretty remarkable, given the state average for a homicide is about 3 years. Here, we did it in 1. And our staff over the next 6 months will have more than 119 trials to finish by the end of December. That is about 5.7 trials a week, and we're not at that pace. So just wanted to keep the board and the public in mind that jury duty is important. It is essential. Unfortunately, I'm grateful for the jurors who did show up so we could move cases along, not only for the victims' rights, but defendants' rights, but also the fact that out of 159 folks who were summoned for jury duty on Monday, only 49 showed up. And it is difficult to pick a jury when each side has preemptories and there's for cause and whatnot. So just keeping the board informed of the workload that we have and the amount and the enormous progress that we're making still over there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paula Massey, resident of Hanford. I am standing here today because a few years ago, the County Board of Supervisors declared August to be Valley Fever Awareness Month. And August is quickly approaching us. And I was just wondering, are there any plans that the county plan on doing for this awareness? So if there are any plans that you're planning to do, whether it's brochures, handing out, being at the Thursday night marketplace, you can contact me. You'll have my number so that I can be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on being selected the Hanford Chamber.
Yes.
Yeah, good job.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Ms. Massey. Our next public comment.
Sonia Bouguet, Human Services Agency. I wanted to share with your board that this week on Friday, Antoinette Gonzalez, who has been a county employee for the past 33 years, is retiring. She's currently a deputy director over Benefits and Employment Services Division. Antoinette is an outstanding public servant. So if you see her this week, she does not have senioritis. She's still on the job. And part of it is I do want to share that Antoinette in this community serves currently over 56,000 people in this community receive services from that division. She oversees 240 staff. She oversees our sites in Corcoran, Avenal, and the majority of our staff on site here. And she has been a member of the Kiwanis Club and has been on the board for KPFB and United Way. I am actively trying to figure out how to get her back. Give her a couple of months off to enjoy her retirement and then figure out where she can continue her public service. Antoinette is probably one of the most humble employees out there, but she has been in this county providing community support and service for a long, long time. So if you see a lot of people as Dodger fans today, that's in honor of Antoinette. We have a little virtual COVID appropriate retirement party for her. But wish her well. I want to congratulate her, wish her well in her retirement. She will be missed a lot in this county. And anyway, I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next person we have, Lupe Villa has his hand raised. Lupe, are you available?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to give you a brief update in regards to our upcoming September 14th California gubernatorial recall election. We are preparing in Kings County to deploy the same model that we did in the November 2020 general, that is the BCA-like model. We will be deploying 8 ballot drop boxes throughout Kings County. That does not include the drop box at the parking lot of our government center or a drop box that will be located in the front of the elections department. Along with that, we'll be activating 6 vote centers throughout Kings County. Avenel High School Gymnasium will be a vote center, Corcoran Rack Gymnasium, the multi-purpose room at the Government Center, Longfield Center, Sierra Pacific High School Gymnasium, and the Lemoore Civic Auditorium. The Civic Auditorium is a new location. Due to the compressed schedule we have for the recall election, we were not able to secure the previous location that we used, which was the Masonic Lodge. However, it will be used in the Masonic Lodge as a drop-off location. Thus far today, we have 61,696 registered voters in Kings County. And for your information, 42 folks have submitted their documents or paperwork to run for governor for the upcoming election. One of them is pending litigation, so we anticipate to have 43 candidates on the ballot. The locations I mentioned are pending public comment. The end of the public comment is going to be September 23rd. Any comments that we receive from the communities will be reviewed and responded to. If no comments are received, we'll be moving forward with those locations. And again, it was just a brief update in regards to the California gubernatorial recall election. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to my office. I'll be providing the board an update on a weekly basis as we approach the election day. Thank you.
Thank you, Lupe.
I do not have anyone else with their hands raised, and I see no one else at the podium.
Very good.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, quick thing.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm actually out of town on a family trip, so to save my bandwidth, I'm going to be turning off my camera from time to time. Okay.
Yep. Got it. Thank you. All right. With that, we will move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes. And we have both A and B report out from closed session for June 22nd, 2021, and then approval of the regular scheduled minutes from the July 13th regular meeting. Board, what's your pleasure?
Move be presented, Your Honor. Debs will second.
Okay, very good. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
If the vote includes the reporting of the closed session, then I'd like to abstain from that part.
The vote, if I may, Mr. Chair, I think the vote is for the minutes. I'll go back and report out, put that on the record.
Okay. Then the vote is aye, Madam Clerk.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so just to be clear, we have five in favor. So, all right, thank you. At this
Sorry, Mr.
time,
Chairman.
now we'll go ahead.
If, as far as reporting out of the closed session on June 22nd, I do have a statement to read into the record. And there's no action your board needs to take because it's just a reflection of what you took in closed session. Okay, by a vote of 4-0 with Supervisor Valley recused, on the 22nd of June, 2021, Lee Burdick, former county council in the county, finalize a separation agreement whereby Ms. Burdick agreed to end her employment with Kings County on July 13th, 2021. As part of this agreement, the county agreed to pay her $250,000, approximately the equivalent of the remainder of her compensation for the balance of her 4-year term, and an additional $250,000 as a separation payment. And that's all I have for the record. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And as far as reporting, with respect to reporting out, do we need to, is that an action item or just simple reporting out?
No, just reporting out. You took the action in closed session.
Oh, very good. Thank you. All right, then we'll move to item 4, which is the consent calendar. And Madam Clerk, do we have any updates or modifications?
We do not.
Very good. Board, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented, Verboen.
Second, Gundes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. Thank you. And we'll now move to item 5, which is regular agenda items. We'll start with administration.
Is Bob Henry on the line on WebEx? He's not here.
Don't see him. He is not online.
Okay, well, we can maybe reserve that for him, and if he shows up later, we can swing around back to him with that. And sorry.
Oh, I just said thank you. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So we'll now move to item 5B, which is human resources, and Henny Ring. Maybe.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Henny Ring with Human Resources. Today, I am here to bring the memorandum of understanding between the county and the Deputy Sheriff's Association. The county's agreement with the Deputy Sheriff's Association expired on June 30th, 2021. Negotiations were conducted in good faith and accessor agreement was reached between the parties for a term of beginning July 1st of 2021 and ending June 30th, 2023. Just to give you a little overview of the agreement, the previous agreement, like I said, expired just June 30th of 2021. The negotiations began and the successor agreement was reached. The proposed agreement includes a 4-range, approximately 4% salary increase in the first year, which will be effective July 12th, 2021, pay period 15, 2021. And a 3-range, approximately 3% increase in the second year of the contract effective July 11th, 2022, pay period 15, 2022. And that's for all employees in that bargaining unit. Additionally, the uniform allowance had an additional increase of $100 for the deputy sheriff, sheriff's deputies, sheriff deputies canine, and the DA investigators. During the term of the agreement, an increase in the health insurance premium will continue to be split 50-50 between the employee and the employer while in contract. With your agenda item packet, there was a MOU strikeout with the changes, the new agreement in there for your review. What I'm asking is for the board to authorize HR director and designated staff to sign the successor agreement with the Deputy Sheriff's Association beginning June 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2023. I'm available for any questions. I can go over a little bit of the impact on this. The cost for 1 year in the contract is approximately $433,200, which will reflect in the budget for this fiscal year 2021-22. And the cost for year 2 is estimated about $350,000. However, the cost could be higher depending on CalPERS. We don't have it all calculated just yet because we won't know it until the next fiscal year. For CalPERS retirement rate increases and Social Security costs. Again, I'm available for any questions. We're happy we've got this one down. So anything from the board.
Very good. Board, do you have questions?
I'll make a motion to approve and thank staff for getting it done in a nice manner, and glad we all got it worked out. So thank you.
Nevs will second.
Okay, very good. we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries, and just from the chair, just say thank you to all parties involved. COVID has set everyone back, and negotiations is a big part of that, and just want to thank everyone for their patience and professionalism in dealing with that issue and as we go forward. But again, thanks to everyone for their professionalism with that.
Thank you.
All right. We will now move to item 5C, which is Human Services Agency.
Morning, Chairman, members of the board, Sonia Bouguet, Human Services Agency. This is a request to approve an agreement with Kings County Commission on Aging Council to provide continued Medi-Cal outreach and assistance for a Medi-Cal Health Enrollment Navigators project. Commission on Aging has been helping us out for the past couple of years for both CalFresh enrollment and Medi-Cal enrollment, given the population that they serve. Ability to take to our seniors services directly without having them to come into the office has really been helpful. Even prior to the pandemic, it certainly was a great help during the past year. So this is a request to continue this agreement for another year. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. We'll move now to item 5D, which is Public Health Department. And Mr. Hill.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ed Hill, Public Health. I'm going to start my presentation as I always do by reminding everyone the simple steps we can all take to protect ourselves from communicable diseases such as COVID-19, which are frequently wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. Don't touch your face with unwashed hands. Stay hydrated with water. A hydrated cell is a healthy cell. Stay home if you are sick, and wear face coverings to continue to protect those unvaccinated around you. My update is going to be brief again today. Our daily numbers are available on our website, and we continue to watch hospital data closely. Regional hospital admissions, both in medical surge or general admissions and ICUs, are starting to increase slightly. Admissions at our local hospital have been variable over the past couple of weeks, but is trending upward. As of 7/18/2021, the local hospital had 10 patients in med surge or general admissions and 1 patient in the ICU. Of those admitted, only 5 are Kings County residents. As a reminder, hospitals work on a regional basis, meaning that they admit patients from other counties, not just from Kings County. And since July 1st, unvaccinated COVID patients have accounted for 77.8% of the admissions, and 22% have been vaccinated. Of those 22% that are vaccinated, they have been self-reported vaccinations. Our PPE status has not changed, and we are still maintaining a 60-day supply for all of our healthcare facilities. The mobile testing site program schedule is on our website, and it does continue to change as we adjust to the different weather conditions. I need to report that we are seeing an increase in testing. We had 102 samples collected in one day last week, is where we usually do only about 66 over a week period. So that increase in testing could have 2 main drivers. One of them could be folks are symptomatic, and so they're testing more, which of course would translate to higher COVID cases. Another possibility is people are wanting to make sure that they're safe and not infected, so they're increasing their testing. We do, however, continue to see increases in COVID cases, 112 over the last week, and we are still encountering individuals that resist in providing the details we need to fully understand and investigate those cases. On the Delta variant, we now have a total of 9 Delta variant cases. If you recall, 2 weeks ago I reported 5. The variant does continue to spread, and currently there are 2,142 cases of the Delta variant in California. We were fortunate enough and able to get an additional 2 case investigators and contact tracers from the state, bringing our total to 3 now, and this will be helpful as our cases continue to increase. We have also modified our local staff roles again to accommodate the new cases, and we'll continue to make those modifications and shifts as our case count dictates. We have reached out to both the local hospital and skilled nursing facilities to determine if they have any unmet COVID needs as we prepare for this next wave. And at this point, they have communicated they do not at this time. On a vaccine update, last week, Public Health administered 121 vaccines, which is still low, but it's higher than the week prior, which was influenced by the holiday weekend. We continue to have plenty of available appointments in all of our clinics, and we have the capacity still to provide 700 doses a day just through Public Health. We, Public Health, continue to work with organizations that request on-site vaccine clinics, and we still just need a week's notice to arrange for staffing and the logistical needs. We do have several pop-up clinics coming up, and we are seeing an increase in requests, which is a good sign. Hopefully that will translate to, of course, much higher vaccine acceptance and numbers. So far, Kings County providers have administered 89,627 vaccines to county residents. Also, on May 14th, we started vaccinating the 12 to 15 population, and so far Kings County providers have administered 2,937 vaccines to that age group. We are still working with the state to correct their data reporting issues as it relates to prisoners vaccinated in the CDCR facilities in our county. And just as a reminder, several weeks ago, we found that they were including the population in our eligible denominator, but they were not including all the vaccinated individuals in our vaccinated numerator, which was underreporting our vaccine status in the county. Our current breakthrough rate is at 0.163% of our vaccinated population. By breakthrough, I mean these are folks who were completely vaccinated and then ended up contracting the virus anyhow. That number is very low, which is a good number to see, and it's proof that the vaccines are working. And so the takeaway for this meeting is that the virus is still out there. Again, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. We do need to remain diligent and take these numbers for what they're worth. People still need to protect themselves and not get in a hurry to get back into larger gatherings or big events, and of course, get vaccinated. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good, Mr. Hill. Thank you for the presentation. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Hill, do you have data on when you say we had a few breakthrough cases on folks vaccinated? Are you able to say what vaccine those folks had that still got the virus? Thank you.
Supervisor Valley, through the chair, that is a data element that we can begin reporting on. I'm sorry I don't have it at my fingertips, but I will have that for you next Tuesday.
Sir.
Okay, further questions? All righty. Not hearing any questions. Thank you for the update. And this time we have reached our public hearing time, but we're a little early. So we'll move to board member announcements and reports. And Supervisor Neves.
I think we have an addendum, don't we, Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't get your attention timely. We do have an addendum, which is from administration. It is consider approving the Board of the State and Community Corrections Construction Agreement for the County Senate Bill 81, Round 2, Juvenile Center Remodel Project, and authorize the County Administrative Officer or his designee to sign any future amendments to the agreement as required. And I believe Dom will be presenting that.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that.
No, that's my fault. I'm sorry.
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Domingo Cruz, one of your administrative analysts in the administrative office. As the CAO, I've mentioned this morning, I'm here to request that your board approve the Board of State and Community Corrections construction agreement for the county's Senate Bill 81, Round 2 Juvenile Center Remodel Project, and authorize the county administrative officer or her designee to sign any future amendments to the agreement as required. So on May 25th, 2021, your board of... I'm sorry, there was a question?
Dom, if you would maybe turn your volume down, I think we're getting feedback through your your computer, maybe turn your volume down and just make your presentation, and then turn it back up for questions when you're finished.
Will
See if
do.
that happens.
So again, on May 25th, 2021, your board awarded the bid for the County Senate Bill 81, Round 2 Juvenile Center Remodel Project, which is the SB 81 project, to the apparent lowest bidder, which is the Bowie Contractors, Inc. So in order to receive reimbursement of authorized project expenses from the state, once the construction starts, staff is requesting that your board enter into a construction agreement with the Board of State and Community Corrections, which is the BSCC. This is also needed in order for the state's pooled money investment board to issue an interim financing loan approval for the project during the board meeting or their board meeting on July 21st, 2021. And for the state's Department of Finance contract award approval during their meeting on July 23rd, 2021. So as presented on June 15th, 2021, board's meeting, your board adopted a budget resolution in order to proceed with construction financing. So the total cost of the project is $20,111,754. At this time, I would like to request that the date on the page 2 of your agenda item and the beginning of the first paragraph under the background section be changed to June 15, 2021 as the date entered was incorrect. So the cost of the project is included in the recommended fiscal year 2021-22 budget unit 700003, KCSB 81 project. The account number on that is 94105, SB 81 project. So the city certified $9,600,000 for the project, and the county is providing $10,511,754. So after today, we will return to your board for the construction agreement and notice to proceed approval on July 27, 2021 for the Bowie Contractors, Inc. So the estimated start of construction date is July 27, 2021. The estimated completion date is October 20, 2022 for a 15-month construction schedule. And the anticipated occupancy date is January 18th, 2023. So with that, I respectfully request that your board approve the Board of State and Community Corrections construction agreement for the County Senate Bill 81 Round 2 Juvenile Center Remodel Project and authorize the county administrative officer or her designee to sign any future amendments to the agreement as required. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, the only question I have is if the CAO will, if there are fiscal changes to this, if he, even though he has the authorization to make the changes, if he will plan to update the board on when that time comes, if.
Absolutely.
Yep. Very good. I'd also ask, I know we had some issues with State Fire Marshal signing off. Are we finally good there? I know they initially did, and then there was some other timing issues. Are we good now?
Mr. Chairman, yes, so far we are on the timeline. We haven't heard anything back that is a detrimental to the project.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, board, any further questions? If not, entertain a motion to accept the item.
No, I'll make a motion to approve this. Approve the Board of State and Community Corrections construction agreement for the County Senate Bill 81 Round 2 Juvenile Center Remodel Project and authorize County Administrator Officer to sign future agreements as required. Thank you.
We have seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. So we now have reached the end of the regular agenda besides the public hearing, and we're still a little bit early, so we'll move to board member announcements and reports, and Supervisor Neves, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Calviva Finance Meeting last week reviewed the financials. That's a $1.2 billion budget is on track, even though we had to move some money around to fit in the right locations. The pharmacy carve out by the state, as well as stalling that change, a reduction in revenue from rentals, and a couple of other low interest returns have created some challenges, but we'll continue to work through those. And overall, the numbers were correct. We just had to do some journal entries to make sure everything balanced. At the regional authority meeting, we also reviewed the goals and objectives for 2021-22, receiving all of the standing reports from finance and compliance and medical management and operations. It was the last meeting for Greg Hunn, who for the last 10 years has served Calviva and will be retiring the end of July, with Jeffrey taking over at that time. 384,000 souls enrolled in the program in the 3-county region of Madera, Fresno, Kings, with 21,000 in Kings County. The South Fork Kings Groundwater Sustainability Agency also held a meeting, held elections, received all of the financial reports, and reviewed all of the upcoming groundwater management updates, and we continue to move along there. American Legion Post 100 continues to provide breakfast. So if you're looking for a place to have breakfast on a Friday morning, the American Legion Post in Lemoore can fix you up. South Fork Kings on Friday also conducted tours on the Aquifer Storage and Recovery Pilot Project. This is a kind of a new and innovative project to take surface water and inject it directly into the water producing aquifers. And certainly want to thank Stone Land Company and Tony Azevedo for allowing that pilot project to go forth. The surface water delivery has been extended to August 10th. And hopefully at that time, we'll have about 60 acre feet of water delivered directly into those water producing aquifers, and then be able to conduct the study as to how much will be extracted out. But an interesting project, and hopefully once they get it produced, we'll have something on Facebook and social media to be able to physically see that project unfold. And then yesterday, Kings County Homeless Collaborative meeting, we talked about the front door project as well as some low barrier shelters. There is a 100-day challenge along with the funding and services. The front door project is a project of Tulare and Kings that kind of follows a 211 model of service to the homeless community, and kind of a remote services delivery point instead of a centralized mode of delivery. And so you might see some very colorful van out visiting some locations and trying to do some case management. The 100-day challenge is a challenge to increase housing vouchers, and will begin in August 2nd, and try to move some of the homeless people into a more permanent housing options, whether that's through the Housing Authority or working with landlords. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Fagundes.
I'm good at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Verboon.
Here. So last week, I also attended the South Fork Kings GSA ASR well tour. Very well presented to us. Not very many people showed up to it, but this is a pilot project. They are writing the CEQA documents right now as they learn how to do this process, so that when it is available to each and every homeowner in the state of California, they'll have the direction on how to do it. So this is a good step. Kings County has been doing a good job by leading it in that direction. And I also want to thank Tony Azevedo and Stone Land Company for allowing that to be on their property. You never know what's going to happen. You can blow the well up, you can break something, but to let someone come on your property and do an experiment that doesn't really have a lot of documentation to it is good for the community. So look forward to that completion of that project, and hopefully like to do that project on one of my ranches as well. I think it'd be good. We have one of those every square mile. We could probably end our overdraft situation in 1 year when we have a wet year. So, but we have to have a wet year first. Worked on some of the neighbors out in that area that are losing wells, getting them set up with self-help and getting new wells drilled. So we'll probably have a public forum, town hall meeting, Zoom meeting or something like that in the next month or so. So we get information out to the residential people that live out in the country so they know who to contact when the well goes dry or plan ahead before it goes dry. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, right when our board meeting was ending, I received a text from Assemblymember Gonzalez regarding the governor signing the budget bill that included the $2 million for the Kettleman City bridge, pedestrian bridge, the construction. And so I'm working with his office to come down and do a check presentation out there in Kettleman City to the members of the community. And we'd actually first planned to do this as soon as tomorrow. But with my trip, the planned trip being out, we're working on a new date, and we'll get that date out. But look forward to a nice community gathering, presenting the $2 million and updating the community that on the reality of this long needed pedestrian bridge, is coming to fruition. Also, Senator Padilla is submitted on the federal side for another $2 million to help us. As we know from Dominic's presentation, that bridge is actually in the $4 million range. And so if Senator Padilla can bring us home another $2 million, then obviously that's cost savings to the county's $2 million that we're working to make that budget whole. So continue to update on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. And then for me as well, yesterday we had the KTAAA, that's the Kings Tulare Area Agency on Aging, and a number of reports on senior nutrition, digital divide, and how COVID has, really challenged seniors and they're being shut in, and devices that are being made available to seniors through the KTAAA and obviously our local aging council and Ms. Bobby Warson. And but I guess the most concerning issue that we dealt with yesterday was what's called the AAA remapping, and the state is looking at three alternatives to changing the area agency on aging kind of model. And the first is to completely go individual for every county. This seems to be the preferred option of the state. We all know that this would be very expensive, as we do a cooperative effort with Tulare and really save a lot of money on administrative fees. And as all of our agencies know, the administrative costs, the reports that are required by the state to backfill, all the spending that occurs on behalf of the senior programs, those are astronomical fees, and there would be no increase in funding to handle any of those administrative fees. It would just be pushed out onto the counties, and so there's a lot of concern with that. That would end up being just direct cuts to the people that we serve if we had to pull administrative fees out of what we're delivering today to our seniors. So very concerning. The third option is to, the second option is to maybe narrow it to only 40 AAAs throughout the state. And, that would further condense it. I'm not sure how the lines would align and who we would be aligned with. But then the final option is to keep it as it is. And our board chose to write some letters of support with respect to, we think it's a good model. It's an effective model. It's been a model that we've been using for a number of years, and it meets the needs of our seniors in our communities in a responsible way without increasing administrative fees and reducing services to the people that we serve. So I would also encourage our board maybe to look at writing a letter of support for this third option and in remaining in the current model that we are using. And with that, that's all I have this morning. So with that, we can move to board correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to board correspondence, I have nothing that I need to bring to your attention. As far as upcoming meetings and events, Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department will be having their 100th anniversary celebration July 24th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Veterans Park in Lemoore. That is a free family event. Then 22 state veterans, law enforcement, and first responder suicide awareness ride will be July 21st through August 8th, with a meeting at the Hanford Civic Auditorium at 7:30 a.m. on July 21st. Then also upcoming agenda items. Of course, we have budget hearings scheduled for August 17th and 18th. Then in addition to that, sooner than that, July 27th, next week, we will have behavioral health agreement for telepsychiatrist and medical director with Area Wisenhunt. And from fire, we have the Corcoran District Hospital grant. From health, COVID-19 update, probation, JAG grant application, sheriff MOU with the Superior Court of California for court security services, and a discussion on the another airplane purchase and sale of surplus equipment, which is related. Then August 3rd, a couple items from administration, jail medical contract amendment. The ARPA study session will have that information back for your consideration. And then additionally, HR will have a class and pay study for child support assistant. Then from child support, we have Child Support Awareness Month. From probation, agreement with Champions Recovery Alternative Programs, Inc. for residential substance use treatment and other rehabilitative services. August 17th, this is actually a part and parcel to budget hearings. We'll have impact fee public hearing from administration. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Spikes. And just to roll back to our first agenda item, did Mr. Henry ever show up?
No, he has not.
Okay,
So we'll be in touch with him and see if we need to schedule that for next week or something.
Okay, very good. Well, it is now 10:48, and I don't believe we have enough time to go to closed session. So why don't we take a 10-minute recess? We'll be back at just before 10 o'clock to conduct the public hearing. So at this time, we'll be in recess till 10 o'clock.
Will that, for the public, Mr. Chair, is that same link?
Yeah, is that, go ahead.
Same link for the public that we're on right now?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll be in recess for 10 minutes. Right, we ready to go? All righty, are we all live?
I can hear you.
We are here. We are getting everything prepared. We are having some issues with some technical stuff, so just stand by a moment.
Okay, very good, thank you.
We're ready? Okay.
Joe, that.
The only technical issue is me.
All right, it is 10 a.m. and we are reconvening as the Board of Supervisors from recess.
I see
At this time, we have a public hearing scheduled on the redistricting for 2021. So this morning, we have the administration handling this, and Mr. Spikes and Ms. Martinez.
Actually, I will turn this over to Diane from County Council and let her, Dan Freeman, handle this.
Yes, I will introduce this by saying that we are here to conduct a first public hearing. That is the recommendation from County Council to the board. This is our first redistricting public hearing. With me is Jeff Tilton from NDC, who will help facilitate this hearing and present information to the board and to the public. With the county has engaged in outreach efforts prior to this hearing, it's come to our attention this morning that there was some issues on boosted posts with an error in the email address that was part of those boosted posts. We've talked to NDC and to Tripepi Smith, and the plan to remedy this is to schedule another public hearing for next Tuesday so that we can make sure that any misinformation that might be out there is corrected and a further opportunity to be heard. With that said, I'll ask the board if they have any questions, and if none, then I'll turn the time over to Jeff.
This is Carrie Martinez, Assistant County Administrative Officer. I just wanted to make a note that we do have a Spanish live translator in the board chambers, and she is also live streaming that translation via the web.
Thank you, Kyria.
So just hold on. Still Chairman Peterson here. Just for clarification, we are conducting the hearing today, but we will be conducting a secondary hearing next week. Is that correct?
Yes, I see no reason to not go forward with the hearing today. There was notice of the hearing, and there are people present, and I think that it is sufficient to go forward with the hearing today. But to fill in any gaps of misinformation that may be out there, then we will conduct a second hearing.
Okay, very good. Please proceed.
And keep in mind, this is the first of what's required to be at least 4.
Yes,
So we're adding one more to what our minimum requirement is going to be at least.
yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Chairman
you.
Peterson, if I may be heard. Are you officially opening the public hearing?
Not yet.
Thank you.
We're going to we'll make a presentation, and I'll open the public hearing to public comment.
Thank you.
So please proceed with the presentation.
Hey, good morning. I'm Jeff Tilton. Raised in Central Valley boy. So it's good to be in the Central Valley, especially this time of year. Wish there were better circumstances with respect to water, but it is what it is at this point. So I guess I'm saying next slide, please. So thanks for assisting me. So we're here part of the redistricting process. It's a process that we must complete by December 15th for counties. And right now you see a slide that illustrates 2 initial public hearings to gather information to educate residents of the County of Kings on this process. We'll come back to you next week with another date included in there. So we'll now have 3 public hearings. Again, the intent of the first now 3 public hearings is to gather information on, and I'm going to go through this in a few minutes, but what are the communities of interest? What are the neighborhoods in this county that the residents are going to help inform us as we look at drafting maps? When I talk about drafting maps, I'll talk about that a little bit later too. We were all hit with the pandemic, so everything was delayed, including the census. We should have already had our census data back in February, March, and we would have been able to do this work a long time ago. And So it might seem rushed, but we're trying to create a situation where it does not seem that rush. Well, we'll get the census data in mid to late August. We will not be able to give you true California data until early October, as California was going to take the census data and then look at the prisoners in California, prisons, and take those inmates and place them back into their previous residence. And so that will count toward either their city and their county place of residence prior to being incarcerated. So that's going to take some time for Sacramento to work through its database and to provide us with the rich numbers. Now I talk about we're trying to gather enthusiasm and get folks involved, and everything I talk about today going forward until the middle of October, early of October, is all with the caveat of estimated data. Okay, we'd love to say, yeah, we're going to be really close, but we really don't know how many of those inmates previously resided in Kings County yet. And so it'd be foolish of me to come up here and say, well, these are your data. So we'll use the term estimated data. And then by October 20th, we're going to have to put a deadline on folks who will submit maps, as this body here is going to look at all the draft maps that have been submitted at your November 3rd meeting. And it's at 6:30 where you normally would meet in the mornings. Well, under the new Fair Maps Act, a governing body must have at least one hearing after 6 p.m. or Saturday or Sunday, hence the 6:30 public hearing. And as the chair noted as well, all the public hearings as it relates to your redistricting have to start at a particular time. That's why we could not start the public hearing earlier this morning. We had to wait until 10. And then we're going to come back after that November 3rd hearing, and you're going to hopefully say, let's just narrow it down to 2 or 3 draft maps to be considered at the November 7th meeting. That doesn't mean that maps stop being submitted. Residents can still submit maps, but they do have a deadline, November 22nd. But it's on December 7th is the hopes that you will select a final map going forward and looking at final map adoption on the second reading of an ordinance on May 14th. Excuse me, December 14th. Next slide, please. So with respect to the rules and goals, it's really pretty simple. We must follow federal law, and then we must follow California's criteria for counties, otherwise known as the Fair Maps Act, that was signed into law, I believe, January 2020 by the governor. So when we're looking at all the data and we're considering drafting maps, one has to attempt to make the 5 districts in the county an equal population. Okay? There can be some variance. That's why I use the term attempt. There could be some variance. A little bit less than 10% is the Supreme Court has said that's okay at this point. We also need to follow the Federal Voting Rights Act, and there can be no racial gerrymandering. Now we're going to shift over to California's criteria, and they must go in this particular order as we're considering draft maps. This is with anybody that wants to submit a map. The districts must be in geographically contiguous. We cannot divide neighborhoods or communities of interest. We need to respect the cities and census designated places in the county. And we need to have easily identifiable boundaries. Not all about you. Sometimes it's really difficult to figure out what district I live in because the boundaries are all jagged, et cetera. But we want to make sure that they're easily identifiable for residents in the county. Major roads, waterways, canals, and I'll talk a little bit more about these, railroad tracks, things like that people can say, oh, this is the boundary for this particular district. On the other side is another district. And they must be compact districts. They can't have fingers going out into these strange, places to try to grab people to bring them into their district. They must be compact. And the one thing is we cannot favor or discriminate against a political party. Next slide, please. So the big meat of what we're trying to do between now and October 20th, when those draft maps come in, is asking residents to define what are our neighborhoods in the county and what are the geographic boundaries as I was mentioning. When you have school districts, et cetera, that could be used to inform those who would like to draft maps. In the absence of public testimony, there could be public records, emails, general plans that have been developed over time that could be considered as part of the triangulation of informing how to on drafting maps. Next slide, please. So we're also looking at communities of interest. Maybe there's an area in the county that have shared economic interest. Maybe there's areas in the county that where there are a plethora of homeowners versus renters. Obviously, in Kings County, we have a fairly large rural area that we want to recognize as well. And then we're going to ask the question, would this community benefit from being included within a single district for the purposes of its effective and fair representation? Or would it be more suitable to have multiple representation? I always like to use the example of when I lived in a 55-plus retirement community in a city in the Central Valley. We wanted to have more than just one representative going to city council and taking our voice. We wanted to have multiple. We had a large retirement community. So that gives you an idea. But that's really how the county and folks are going to be able to or want to define whatever their community of interest are. But it's a question to take under consideration. And communities of interest may not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. Next slide, please. And we can go to the next slide. That's just a repeat of what I just said. Thanks. So as I mentioned, some possible neighborhoods and communities. I think we have the general plan represented here. What I hope that we're able to do between now and October 20th is replace these maps with comments from the community. What are the communities of interest that they feel, and start just bullet pointing their statements on these particular slides so we can memorialize them. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But and the other counties that I'm working with, that's what we're doing. We're taking what they see, what they feel are the neighborhoods in their counties and et cetera, that they believe should stay together. They brought up a census designated place as an example of one county rather, that their census designated place was divided. It didn't make sense, 300 people living in this census designated place. They could not understand why it was divided. Great point. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about the mapping tools that you have approved for residents in the County of Kings to be able to use. At the very bottom, on that very last 4 words, it says, "We welcome your maps because we'll take anything. We'll take it drawn on a napkin. We'll, take a picture of it, send it to us. We'll try to recreate what you're trying to represent as a map." But we also have tools that folks could also use. We'll go to the next slide, please. This tool is not necessarily a tool where they would draw maps. This is a review tool. So every map that is submitted, folks will be able to go and select. There's a column there to the right. Those are draft maps. And if you clicked on one, it would show you that representation of that author's draft map. Then you can also put them on top of each other and layer them to see how different they are, et cetera. So that's just more of a review map. This is an example from Lake Forest. And you're going to see Lake Forest. My apologies on this. Next slide, please. Thanks. And this is what we just call a simple map drawing tool. Basically, we'll take the whole county and we'll break up the county in population units. And the population units will have numbers inside of them, which represent the number of residents, again, estimated folks at this point, that have the residents in that particular population unit. What we want folks to do is draw up your districts. Okay, now you need to add the numbers together to see if you're an equal population. Okay, next slide, please. Or if they wanted to use Excel, an Excel sheet, they can do the same thing. It's the same map, except it doesn't have population totals in it. It has an identification number. And they take that identification number and they drop it into an Excel spreadsheet. And you tell the Excel spreadsheet, what district do you want this number to fall into? And it does all the math for you. It breaks down all the demographics, the citizen voting age population, income, language spoken at home, all that information. that are all particular key components as we're looking at draft maps in the future. Again, I want to state it's estimated data only at this point. If we go to the next slide, please. And thanks for helping. District R is a free service. It's a piece of software that's online that is essentially created and managed by Tufts University. And if you were to go to districtr.org, and I'll have the URL in here next week, it brings up a map of the entire nation. And so you can actually click on a particular state, and it'll start drilling down. I'll just tell you, they're slow right now. If you were to click on California, and if you were to click on counties, I think there's only 5 counties on there. So they are trying to catch up, just like with everybody else as pandemic related. The other thing, it's only available in English. So something to keep in mind, but you're not paying for it. Next slide, please. This is one, again, that you've decided to use. It's called Maptitude. It requires a little more skill base. I could tell you this, folks, it requires a lot of patience, but it's fun. If you like to draw maps on the internet, and it's one where you could click census block by census block by census block, or a variety of census block. I talked about those landmarks, identifiable landmarks. You can line up your districts, proposed districts, I should say, by landmarks. And it will also give you the total data of the things that you've colored in. You can see, oh, I'm over my ideal target for that equal balance in this particular district. Now you have to go back and erase, type of thing. It's available in multiple languages as well, as you can see up there. Next slide, please. Can I go back once? Please, thanks. I'm sorry. You're going to see, as I'm going to show you the Kings County redistricting website, there's demonstration videos and there's demonstration tutorials, etc., for a few of these that I showed you. Okay, so it's not that I'm sharing this right now and expecting everybody to remember this. Back on the website, on the next slide, please. You'll be able to see, and I believe it's under Draw a Map section of the website. So we really like individuals to stay involved, stay connected, help inform authors of the maps. If I can go to the next slide, please. There's social media that's available out there as well for a variety of channels that folks might subscribe to. And next slide, please. And before we start talking about, or the chair breaks into the public hearing, the thing that I want to really emphasize is we really want the residents of the County of Kings to submit maps. Our firm, National Demographics Corporation, will submit 2 or 3. When we're asking folks to submit maps through those mapping tools, we're going to ask that they put their name down and their contact information, only because we want to ask them questions in case there's something that we don't understand. We want to best represent their thoughts as they drafted a map. And when they come before you, the maps aren't going to have the person's name on. It's going to have a number like 102 and 103 and 104, et cetera. We'll be able to tell you if this was a map submitted by public or if this was a map submitted by NDC, et cetera. But it's up to the board to select that final map, regardless of who submitted it. We would absolutely love it if somebody from the county submitted a map and the board of supervisors selected it. It would just tickle us. But with respect to the public hearing, between now and clearly all the way through October, middle of October, we want to be able to have these questions answered. But the board, between now and August 31st, we're going to ask you to memorialize the thoughts that people are bringing to you, okay, to meet the AB 849 requirement in the statute. So with that, I think we are also talking about, I know that you have approved an outreach program through Pepe Smith, which I think is great. based on demand or interest, et cetera. I know that Trepepe Smith and NDC, we've offered to host workshops in here in Hanford or west of here, or do a virtual hybrid. That's what we're doing in other counties to get more and more individuals involved, just to really expand that outreach. So it's something that you and the staff could consider, and we're open to that as well. So that's the end of my presentation. Happy to take any questions before Chair Peterson opens the public hearing.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate the presentation, and so we'll now go to the board. Are there questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, a question, Valley?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, do we know what the procedure is for requesting the workshop? Is that, would a supervisor have to get a vote from the board if they wanted to hold a workshop in communities throughout their district? Or could we just work with staff to take up NDC on these workshops that they're offering?
Yeah, and again, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but that may be, might involve a legal question as well as to how we go about this, and so clarification for that would be much appreciated.
This is Diane Freeman. If the board wants to expand the scope of outreach, we've currently contracted for 4 public hearings and press releases and a certain scope of work. If it's the board's desire to expand that to include additional public workshops, then we certainly can do that. It would just be kind of amending the scope of work in our current contract, and it would require an additional budget appropriation, or at least consideration of that. We would have to look at the amounts that are currently allocated to see if they're sufficient to cover the additional costs.
Mr. Chairman, I guess more clarification, would the workshop be considered the same definition of the public hearing? I took it to be that if NDC hosted a workshop, it could be, for example, if I wanted to do one out in Avenel, it could just be me, or obviously any board members that wanted to show up but weren't required, like the way it is today during the public hearing. Can we get that clarified?
Yes, a workshop would be slightly less formal than a public hearing. A workshop can be conducted by staff, and so it wouldn't have to be formally conducted by this board. And one of the public hearings, I believe, I'd have to go back. One of the public hearings can be a workshop conducted by staff. According to the law, that would satisfy the legal requirements.
Yeah, we just have to be careful with getting a quorum, attend the workshop, and now it becomes a potential Brown Act thing, so.
Okay, is that
and then
answer
Mr.
your question, Supervisor? Go ahead.
No, that does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then the last question for now, I may have some later, but for now is, are we getting a good flow of the public that's looking to get on right now? Are we having any issues with that?
Kyria, if I may defer to you as the public information officer about the flow of response from the public.
We have a few members of the public who would like to make a comment, and then we have one specific comment on the trouble of trying to get on the link, and that's from the city of Avenel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We also have people in the audience as well.
Okay, further questions from the board? Okay, hearing no further questions from the board at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and take comment from the public. If you would, please identify yourself by name and address when you make public comment. And with that, I'll turn it over to the clerk to identify those who wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Catherine Venturello, Clerk to the Board of Supervisors. First thing I need to note is that on the BOS questions email, we have received comments from Mary Gonzalez Gomez, and they will be given to the board, as well as Anthony Lopez for Alvaro Preciado. We also have received information on the redistricting Contact Us website, and that is from
Ignacio Ornales, and that copy will also be given to the board. I have a list of names of persons who have requested to speak this morning online and in person. I will go down the list of names and have them come forward. I do see people with their hands up. When we acknowledge you, it will be your time to speak. If I can go ahead and go forward, and the first person I have on the list is Paula Massey, if she would like to come up and speak. Oh, I apologize. I had that incorrectly. How about Carlos Tafoya? He will be coming forward.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carlos Tafoya, Juan Carlos Tafoya. Actually, I live at 1456 North Lemoore Avenue, Apartment B, and I'm a proud resident of Kings County. I do reside in Lemoore. My parents live in Armona. I have an older brother who lives in Hanford, so we have our roots deep in Kings County. And I'm very actually excited about redistricting. I've become very engaged quite recently. This is a process that's in our Constitution, and it's an opportunity for the people to have their voices heard. So I'm very excited about this. I believe my goal when it comes to redistricting is to make sure that boundaries are fair and equitable, and that the mappings that are presented and eventually approved truly reflect the changing demographics of our county. It is my hope that what is avoided is any type of status quo boundaries that too often silence the voices of the people. I believe our objective collectively is that this be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I hope that there is a genuine effort made for outreach amongst all the stakeholders of our county, including perhaps collaboration with our community-based organizations who do have a pulse on the people, whether that be in the form of canvassing and talking to folks, ordinary folks on a day-to-day basis. I believe this will be valuable input when it comes to redistricting. It is also my hope that all this be a collective team effort that is transparent, fair, and just, and that the end results will be an equitable representation for our county. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope all of you have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Tafoya.
The next person we have is Claire Fidiasi. Good morning. My name is Claire Fidiasi. I'm a resident of Hanford. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all this morning. And my first comment is a concern that a public hearing takes place at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, which makes it difficult for a lot of people to participate. I understand that there is one evening meeting scheduled, but I would like to point out that that is the bare minimum required by law. And I would hope that the county could do more than the bare minimum, especially with the comments made that we are interested in having as much participation as possible. I've lived in Kings County for 20 years right now, and I lived here about almost 10 years before moving away and coming back. So my family lives here, my friends, I'm involved in the community. It's interesting to me. This is my first go at redistricting, so I'm kind of learning about what it all means. But from what I have researched, 10 years ago, there was not a significant change in how our county was redistricted. So realistically, we have about a 20-year timeframe that we need to make up for. The biggest change in our county is the Hispanic population. We currently have one district that is a Latino centric. And based on research I've done, it looks like we will have two going forward. So I'm interested in having enough people be able to make public comment and work on maps and have access to this information with meetings that allow them outside of their regular workday so that their voice can be heard. The gentleman from NDC mentioned something about a variance, and that 10% is the limit of variance. Again, following the law is fantastic. That's what we all want to do. But I would hope that we could get closer to 0% rather than accepting 9.9 or something. The goal is to have the smallest number, right? My concern as a citizen here is I have tried to figure out who my Board of Supervisors representative is. And on the Kings County website, when I try to zoom in on the map, it gets really blurry. And on the big picture, it's like, oh, I think my neighborhood's right over here. So when we're asking people to work on maps, if they can't even figure out who their own supervisor is, how do they think that they could figure out what their community of interest is, or what, like, where their district should be? So I think we need to have the best maps possible. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I agree with the map. It is kind of hard to see.
And I would just remind future speakers to please give your address when you're identifying yourself, please.
Thank you. The next person I have is Ron Bates.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm going to be brief because I'm old. I was born in Hanford.
Mr. Bates, please give your name and record.
I'm sorry. Thank you for the reminder. My name is Ron Bates, 317 West Windsor, Hanford, California. I was born in Hanford 74 years ago. I've lived in Hanford almost all my life. I took a little time out to go see a little bit of the world, but I've been back in Hanford now for almost 35 years. And Hanford is a special place to all of us. I want to be able to talk to my neighbors and brag about what we can do here. Like I said, I'm gonna just be brief. Kings County should not be divided. As a whole, it is a community of interest. It is small, and there are no really large cities. So where the county itself is a community of interest. So I would ask you, your first decision be made that you do not divide Kings County. Do not pull pieces of it out and assign it with someone else. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 prohibited dividing the county. That was recently changed by the Supreme Court, but it was a law, it was a provision that served Kings County really well for many, many, many years. So I'd ask you to think back to that time and what was happening at that time with civil rights and voting rights, and remember that we still are in a place where those rights need to be protected, and they need to be protected at the highest levels. And you all are the highest level in the county. So we're going to need you to make sure those rights are protected. The county is divided into districts, and those districts are all pretty well communities of interest. There can be some arrangements made, there can be some differentiations there. But if you keep the county together and you work to keep these communities together, then we'll have voters' rights protected. Now I hope not offend the gentleman sitting behind me. We specifically do not want to be paired with Tulare County. This would create extremely non-competitive districts, and this would reduce or remove protections for Kings County that we've had since 1965. keep Kings County whole. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Bates.
The next person I have is Lori Pisante.
Is it okay that I use this podium instead of that one?
Mhm.
Awesome, thank you. Good morning, my name is Lori Pisante, and I'm the Director of Civic Engagement for the Dolores Huerta Foundation. And incidentally, I am also a former resident of Hanford. I am a proud former student at Roosevelt Elementary and Monroe Elementary. My mom was a teacher here, and my brother has been stationed at the Naval Station many times. He flew F-18s for the Navy. So I'm really grateful for everything that Kings County has done to support all of the ways in which my life I wouldn't be here today without.
Ms. Pisante, I'm sorry. Could you please give your address?
This is a public meeting that is being recorded and hosted on your website for 10 years. I'll gladly give it without putting it on the record for everybody to know where I live individually, if that's okay. I'll give it to your clerk afterwards.
I think it's okay.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for respecting that.
Thank you.
So my role today here is to support residents that may have found it difficult to join today. When I came in today, I was asked for personally identifying information before I could even enter the public meeting. I asked the reasoning for that, and they said it was due to COVID contact tracing. But then I found out later that it was because you were using that same list to call people for public comment. I think maybe, if I heard correctly, you guys are going to have another public hearing to address some of the email address errors next Tuesday. Perhaps that's an opportunity to address some of the things that I experienced today. Because any one of the barriers I experienced today, had I not been a native English speaker, probably would have been insurmountable to a lot of people, right? The fact that it's a meeting at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday when a lot of people are working, the fact that the 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. portion of the meeting did not have any translation associated with it. So if I had shown up to the meeting looking for redistricting but not finding it, I might not have been able to figure out what was happening. And a lot of the materials also need to be translated into Spanish and given people with a lot of notice. Then I know a lot of the tech tools that are going to be used for the redistricting process require people to have a certain level of tech access, like internet, computing power, access to Excel. I definitely support the idea that having workshops is a way to help people understand in a less formal, perhaps more accessible way, and to get some of the translation taken care of. Because my understanding is that on the Zoom, it's difficult for Spanish-speaking folks to hear the translations, and I'd definitely like you to seek the feedback of your CBOs who are here to support those marginalized communities' participation. I'm happy to support all of your local CBOs and you in going through this process, and especially those folks who couldn't be here today. I'm always going to be thinking about them. I mean, when we're talking about access to water, when we're talking about impact of COVID, you guys are on the front lines of making sure that everybody is treated equitably. And at the end of the day, these maps, when they are equitable, they put us in the best position to do that. So I really, really appreciate your attention to my requests, and I hope to see integration of them in the next meeting. I know Tulare County has done a fabulous job of doing that. I think they're a model for a lot of folks to look at. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Vicente.
The next person I have is Diana Lopez.
Hey, Mr. Chair, could I just add to that I got a text from the mayor of Avenel. What the lady who just spoke said is correct. It sounds like people are having trouble separating the live Spanish translation, meaning the people that don't need it, they're just looking to get the English, but the Spanish is coming on at the same time too, and it's hard to hear. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. You want me to turn it off? Diana Lopez going to speak? Okay. The next person online we have is Kathy Jorgensen.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Kathleen Jorgensen. I am a resident of Hanford. I too kind of hate to give my address. I actually received a threatening letter from someone during the 2018 election because of a letter I wrote to the editor. I will tell you, I live on North Irwin Street. Thank you for holding this meeting for the input for our Board of Supervisors districts. I will say, however, like others have said, it's sad that this is done on a weekday at 10 a.m. in the morning. Many people interested in this matter are unable to attend due to work and family commitments. I must say that I am new to this process. I always wondered why the County Board of Supervisors didn't look like nor represent many of the communities that they were elected to serve. Why is there no one who looks like me? Or my friend Linda Mays? Or my friend Sal Lopez? Why do we happen to have 4 of the 5 members who look so similar and have similar backgrounds and professions? However, after looking at the maps drawn 10 years ago, I understand how it happened. As an example, the area in Hanford south of 198 seems to have been cracked into 3 different districts. How did that happen? In fact, Hanford seems to be divided into 4 of the 5 districts. We are here today to let you know that we're watching. The new districts need to be drawn using criteria established by law. The line should not be drawn in order to protect current members of the board. The company that Kings County chose to draw these lines was contracted to draw lines in Kern County 10 years ago. Those lines were challenged, and the legal fight that followed cost Kern County millions of dollars. At the end of the day, Kern County was required to redraw those districts. One more note. I remember the battle that this board decided to, when this board decided to eliminate women's clinic. As I sat there through those hearings, I saw 5 men and a male CEO of the county decide that a clinic was not needed. A clinic for women was not needed. Not one woman was part of that decision. I didn't agree then with the decision, and I don't agree now, but I do understand that this type of action will continue to take place as long as our Board of Supervisors does not reflect the constituents it should be representing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not see anyone else with their hand raised, and I believe we have allowed everyone in the audience to be able to speak.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask, moving forward, that the since this is so critical, that written correspondence is now read into the record by the clerk versus the board getting copies offline? Thank you.
Yeah, and just in the future, we'll close the public hearing, and just one more quick brush through, Madam Clerk. We still have no further comment.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the public comment at this time and bring it back to supervisors for questions and comments. And we heard your supervisor. Do you have further? Kent, I think you might be muted.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for hearing that out. Can we address that now, though, please? I believe any comments written should also be read in the record by the clerk at this time.
So I'll defer to either the clerk or counsel for a response.
Due to the way that things are set up in the board chambers, I am not sitting at the computer to be able to read the other 2 that we received during the meeting. I can read the one that I did receive prior to the meeting, but I don't think that would be fair to those that submitted during the meeting. And that is why I had an issue with being able to give them to you prior to the meeting, because they are coming in up until the 10 a.m. time.
Okay, so should we possibly modify the timeline so that that is closed so that to be fair with everyone that provides comments by the dedicated time that they are allowed to be heard?
This is Diane Freeman. If I may speak, the board could certainly do that. I just want to point out that all comments, whether written or oral, will be posted on the county's website. So they will be documented and available for all by virtue of that posting and publication.
Yes, they will become part of the action summary.
Yeah, Ms. Chairman, thank you. I like your idea about the having a deadline, but I also think again this is very important and critical. Obviously, we've heard from a few members of the public. I think that as we're going to probably take some time here, the clerk could have the deputy clerk print out the emails right now, bring them to her, and by the end of this meeting, read those into the record. Posting them on the website is to me, I'm not confident with that, especially since the wrong website got posted. And so switching into that right now, Mr. Chair, could I ask if there's a member from Tri-Pepe representative on this meeting right now that I could ask a question to?
I know Tri-Pepe is listening. If they have not been provided a link, I know Mr. Ryder Smith is listening, and if perhaps,
We don't show them, I think, on there.
okay.
Okay, we paid them $40,000 to be a part of this. I would expect that they would be on the public hearing and know how to get on this forum right here. And so I believe NDC recommended them. So the rep from NDC is still on the line. Sir, are you still with us? And Mr. Chair, I'm gonna have a question for him.
So Mr.
President.
Okay, thank you, sir. I believe if I recall the background memo right, your company recommended Tri-Pepe. So I'm going to ask you, one, I appreciate that you worked with our CAO and our deputy CAO this morning on the concerns on the misinformation that went out to the public on how to attend this meeting. And so one of the questions is, as you are willing to do another public hearing next Tuesday, are you going to bill the county for that one? Or is that one going to be on you for the mistakes?
That's going to be up to staff and the president of NDC. I don't know where the error came from, sir, respectfully commenting. So it'd be really foolish of me to make a commitment on either way. I was informed of an error when I walked into this chambers myself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Chairman, just for full transparency, the misinformation included not just the wrong email, and it wasn't even a typo. It was nowhere close to what the email is for the public to submit a question or get information on how to be in this. So not even in the ballpark. The website, the same thing that was posted is not even in the ballpark. The website listed was a hashtag, not even a www. It was a hashtag, and then it listed that you get on Zoom and participate in this public hearing. And as we know, we're not on Zoom, we're on WebEx, and so all that information was on Tri-Pepe's Facebook page that we paid them to create. It was on their Instagram page that we paid them to create. And so it's the question I wanted to ask was, how did that happen? Because our staff, our deputy CAO did a beautiful job of putting all the correct information in the press release. They sent it out. We all got it last week. And somehow between our staff, the Hanford Sentinels posting the incorrect information, and the social media pages that, again, we paid $40,000 to have them create, all that information went out wrong. And I think that needs to be noted. I'm happy that we are going to have another public hearing next Tuesday, but it's sad that we start off on the wrong foot here. But I do want to thank CAO Larry Spikes and our deputy CAO Kerry Chavez for taking care of that issue so swiftly this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor, if I can respond. First of all, Ryder Smith, the co-founder of Pepe Smith, is on the WebEx. He just needs to have access sent to him to serve as a panelist or the permissions to go live. So, and that's easily remedied. The second thing, he just texted me while you were speaking, and he said he will take care of all the costs that have been generated from this miscue.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then I'll close with, for the record, the one of the.
It looks like he's on now.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to back up and give him an opportunity to respond. Thank you.
So, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Smith is on, if you want to recognize him, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Go ahead.
Mr. Smith, are you listening in?
I am.
Okay, I think Chairman Peterson has recognized you, and I think perhaps you may have already heard what Supervisor Valley said. If
did.
so, perhaps you can then just respond directly.
Yeah, I appreciate the supervisor's concerns, and I acknowledge that there were some errors that were made. My apologies to the county on that. We were scrambling to erect platforms and social media accounts to get everything up and running, to be able to do some outreach, because as I'm sure the supervisor knows, there is no existing social media channels for the county. So we were trying to leverage some new platforms that we had to erect to make that happen. So and there were some complications we had, particularly with Facebook around email addresses that introduced some confusion, and we were able to finally solidify the appropriate email address to use just late last week, which is why we were able to get the correct email address present in the press release. So I've already expressed my willingness to NDC in the county that will absorb any additional cost for NDC related to having an additional hearing. And I'm confident that going forward, we'll have this issue resolved.
Ms. Smith, if you could just hold up 1 second. We're getting a lot of feedback, I think, from your background noise of perhaps what was said previously coming through somehow. So if you could mute the background so we can still just hear you and not any information behind you.
You just turn your volume down, and that may be where we're getting the feedback.
Okay, Ms. Smith, did you want to try that again?
I do, but you know what? Why don't you give me a minute to get a headset real quick, and I'll come right back and join you guys. That way we can try to avoid the
You sound good right there.
for me.
He sounds good.
Yeah,
You sound fine
you're
right now.
loud and clear now, sir, if you want to go ahead.
Okay. So, sorry, my apologies. I'll try that
No
again.
worries.
I am aware of the issues in the email address mistake that was included. This was a result of some confusion and scrambling to get together and configure all the social media channels that were needing to be set up, since the county didn't have some existing channels we could leverage for the outreach portion of that. I believe the only place where the email address was actually incorrect was in a boosted post that we had already set up, and we've offered to absorb all the costs for NDC to redo the hearing, and for all of our effort to get another hearing done next week. In addition to that, we're also happy to, of course, eat the costs on the boosted post that went out and to redo another boosted post that'll have the corrected information in it. I am not familiar with this issue of the hashtag, and obviously I only learned this morning around 9 o'clock when Diane called me that there was some concern with some information, and I'm more than happy to work with her to untangle any other issues that may exist out there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The hashtag is in your Instagram and your Facebook post. It says, go to the website, and it says something like hashtag redistricting 2021 or something like that. And as we know, that's not the email address. So I appreciate you looking into it. So will the misinformation, those posts that have the misinformation, will they be deleted as soon as today and then reposted with your correct website, your correct email on how to make a public comment, and the correct way to participate virtually on this meeting?
We'll make all appropriate corrections that are required, of course.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, for now, I'll close with, I just wanted, for the record, say that the vote on the women's clinic, I was the no vote on that. It wasn't 5 yes votes to close the clinic. I was a no vote. Thank you.
Right. With that, further questions from the board? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, we do have the comments now that have been, have occurred prior to or during this meeting. And Ms. Venturella can go ahead and read those into the record if the board desires to do so.
Can I ask one question too of council and you know, as we go forward, we didn't set any timelines on public comment, and you know, for the future, I mean, somebody could send, you know, could get Henri and send 400 pages and expect us to read that. So I'm just wondering, do we have some sort of clarification on possible timelines and limitations on how we handle this public input that could get, you know, I mean, there are people out there that would be willing to write 400 pages and expect us to read it. So I think we need to be clear in our approach and in how we handle this issue. You know, the public comment portion of our hearings.
Thank
And
you,
if
Chairman
not,
Peterson.
then we should think about that a little bit.
Thank you, Chairman Peterson. Yes, you can set limits as to how long of a comment is allowed during these public hearings. Normally, we set them at about 3 to 5 minutes for the speakers. As for the writings, if somebody was just to send in a 400-page letter, you wouldn't be able to necessarily limit the length of the letter, but you would be able to limit the length of the summary of the letter that is to be given. So rather than have the clerk read out the entire 400 pages, the clerk could read a short summary if possible, or note that the letter is of such length that it is not possible to be read into the record during the meeting.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, if we can get some sort of concurrence, maybe that's acceptable. And I think for the you know, public comment portion of this, you know, pushing out the 5 minutes, I think is adequate. And if, you know, someone wants to provide further, you know, written comment to back up their, you know, verbal comment, then that would be acceptable. But I think 5 minutes is appropriate. And I'll just throw that out to the rest of the board.
I think 5 is very appropriate as well, Mr. Chairman. We know it goes by fast. We've been to, when we drive all the way to Sacramento and that 5-minute timer is ticking when we're speaking, it goes by so quick. So I appreciate you putting out 5 minutes there. Very fair.
Okay. We need to kind of have concurrence from the rest of the board members, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's fine with Supervisor Verboen. One comment I'd like to make on the Facebook page. The post that they put on yesterday is correct. The one from July 13th is the one that has the mistake in it with a hashtag first. So for Ryder Smith, that would be the only one I would remove. The one on July 5th is correct, and July 13th is one incorrect. So if we can make that correction, that would probably help out people quite a bit.
Very good. Thank you. If I could get concurrence, I mean, we're virtual here. So Supervisor Neves, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with the changes.
Okay. And Supervisor Fagundes?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Further comments from the board, questions from the board as well. Okay, here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I have no questions.
Okay. So with that, I believe we've come to the end of our regularly scheduled agenda. At this time, we'll go ahead and adjourn to closed session.
I
And,
thought the clerk was going to read the, thought you approved the reading into the record, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, in keeping with past practice at this point, what we would suggest is have the clerk of the board read the names of the people who submitted the comments. We will post them then as we suggested earlier. And due to the length of some of them and what they might be in the future, as we just discussed, instead, we can perhaps work with council on how we want to approach that to where we can do a summary without making it appear to be like it's the clerk's opinion of what was said. So we want to be careful how we do that. So at this point, if it's okay with the board, what we propose to do is just in keeping with past practice, we can go ahead and just have her read the names of the people that are in there. And then perhaps if we do figure out a way to do a summary, we can just put them in the record next week in summary form, as well as handle that in the future. If that's okay with the board.
Yep. Yeah, well, I really appreciate the comment because, you know, I mean, if you're trying to read between the lines for someone, the lines can get quite blurred. So I think, you know, we would need to be as open and you know, as possible, but still meet the requirements of what we're trying to do here. So,
Well,
I
I think
Supervisor Valley, you have a comment.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think next Tuesday is fair for the staff to figure it out, whether it's a summary, but if it's a letter that can be read within the 5 minutes that they would be able to get coming to the podium, then I believe in all fairness that should take place for this redistricting topic. Mr. Spikes just came back. I can understand he's new, but it's not in sticking with past practice. We've throughout COVID, we've let people send in letters and have them written in the record for anything from industrial hemp to whether they wanted the county opened up or the county closed up. All of that was allowed. And so I think in sticking with practice and to be fair, that we allow letters to the clerk to be read. And I say that in complete agreement with the chairman's comments that there would need to be some way to summarize them if that page is 400 pages long. But if it's something to go in under 5 minutes, it should absolutely be read. That's my opinion, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay. And I would just say this, just based on the short timeline and the opportunity for the clerk to be able to justify and clarify that, and we would have her read those at the next regularly scheduled hearing. Okay. Mr. Spikes, anything further?
No, I don't have anything further. I appreciate that. And yes, I am new here. Sorry about that, Supervisor.
New.
You get one pass. You're good.
Yeah. All right. One more last year. Anything else to come for the board? So at this time, I will. We do have a closed session today. We have a number of items: significant exposure to litigation. One case, Government Code Section 54956.9. We also have a personnel matter, Government Code Section 54957, public employee appointment. That's the county administrative officer. We also have a personnel matter, Government Code Section 54957, public employee appointment, county council. We also have conference with labor negotiator, meet and confer, Government Code Section 54957.6. That will be with CLOSIA, supervisors, and the Firefighters Association. Madam Clerk or Madam Counsel, do you expect any reporting out?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there should be reporting out from at least one of those items, possibly two.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Having said that, at this point, we will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be held Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. Thank you all for your participation, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.